What are you doing, nerd?
What is that, weirdo?
I'm playing it.
Give me that.
No, it's my app. It's called Firefighting Newts.
kinda cool.
Firefighting Newts?
Yeah, it's the greatest app ever made.
Show me.
It's so much fun. Watch. From the main menu, I can change my skin. Bet you didn't know that.
Did it?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
And then you can start the game. Look, I'm playing the game. You're not playing it. I'm playing it.
I want to play the game.
Can we play the game?
You just started bullying me for playing this amazing game. Why would I
That's
let you
before I
play
realized
it?
how cool it was.
I want to play it.
Well, too bad. It's the coolest game ever, and only I get to play it.
No.
Maybe if you guys were a little nicer, you get to play my amazing
Alright, we're sorry,
Firefighting
dude.
Newts.
Come on, just let us play, man.
Please.
Maybe if you say pretty please.
Pretty please?
With cherry on top.
Okay. You can play my amazing game.
Whoa. This is so cool.
How do you make it shoot?
You tap on the screen, and then you can tap towards a window to shoot water at it. At the fire.
Dude. Whoa.
That's insane.
So in the main menu, you have this amazing background of Newts running because they're all a team, and you can choose which Newt you would like to be. Clicking on it. And then there's an audio section where you can switch the audio. Whoops. Hold on, there we go. Now it registered. So you can see. Then you can go back into the main menu and start the game from there, or exit the game, whatever you want. You probably won't want to exit the game because it's an amazing game.
Go.
So if you can see the background, there's essentially layers to it, which it just basically creates depth that makes it look like the Newt is actually moving through space. Also, I created a box collider that keeps the Newt from falling off and keeps him within the boundaries of the game.
So, as you can see, I can spray water by tapping at fires, and the water damage is randomized so that every fire is slightly stronger than the other, or, just has random strengths. There's also a score counter here that counts how many fires you've put out, and depending on that, you can, have a high score and fight against your friends. As you can see, there's a timer that's going off, and if I reach the end of that time, then the game is over, and that is my high score. I can also pause the game by clicking on this button, and it pauses my game.
So the water system is actually a particle system inside of Unity. What I do is I emit 90 particles per second, and I also added an animation to each particle so they turn white near the end of their life cycle. Let me make that clear for you. And that's just because the rippling of water as chaos goes through, it turns white at the end when it's less dense. We also have the left and right buttons to move. Guess what? Left and right in the game. This is added differently than the arrow keys and the WASD keys on a keyboard. And this is so obviously you can play it on an iPhone or a touch screen instead of a laptop.
What I did for this game was I created a bunch of prefabs which live, I can show you this right here. They live right here. They contain the sprite. They contain scriptable objects that hold data for the buildings, including the number of windows, the number of fires, the coordinates where the fires spawn, all that good stuff. And it's all contained in these prefabs. And they're so easy to use, you can drag and drop them. Amazing. And so what I did was I created scripts to randomly instantiate the fires and the buildings when the game starts, so it looks different and it looks cute every single time. It's different every single time. There's a different amount of fires, they spawn in different windows, all to make the game more interesting and more challenging every single time.
All right, so I also made the particles shoot further the further away you're aiming from the player, which what it does is it just increases the speed of the particles and decreases it. And if you look over here, you can see all the fires they're pretty fancy. They look pretty good. Also, yeah, so the water particles were also made in something, like the fire and the water particles were made in this thing that we found online called Pixel FX Designer, which what it does is it creates these particles where you can edit here, like see I can make the fire bigger, smaller, I just make it the right size. and then it pixel renders it, so it looks all, you know, kind of 8-bit, 16-bit, and I can render that. There's different render modes where I can make it render as a loop, where it just finds where the animations kind of match up from the beginning to the end. And then I can also render the start of the fire and then when the fire goes out, so it looks a bit smoother.
Okay, so before when we had this game, it was just things were drag and dropped onto the scene and it wasn't really a game. But now we have a full game that works. It has scripts that run everything and instantiates it during the game instead
so you're
of
constantly making clones of
Yes.
the object and
Those.
randomly making them.
One thing we also changed was we switched from a destruction system to a time system. From the beginning, we wanted to create it so that the game was over once all the fires were put out, but instead we implemented a time system, so once a timer runs out, or you defeat the fires before the time runs out, you win the game.
We also started off wanting to do a multiplayer game, but realized that was kind of ambitious of us, and so now it's just a single player game. And there's no frogs jumping out of windows, and yeah, no lobby where you can play with your friends.
The stream, I also imagine the stream to kind of be like an animation where it would all be connected, and the contact point, like the end of the stream, was the collision box, rather than in making a whole particle system where each particle hits the fire. It'd be one giant stream, and that definitely changed the game up a lot. What do you have to say about this, Emilio?
I was gonna say something earlier about the multiplayer, how actually implementing a multiplayer game in Unity would have involved changing a lot of code, because you switch this option from, I don't remember the name, but basically you can't use the same methods that we used originally when switching from single player to a multiplayer game. So we would have had to reinstantiate the whole game. And also Flutter sucks.